What's going on, guys? Hey, I want to come back to you this evening and bring you some JLP. And in this episode, he's talking to Jeremy from thequartering. And if you guys don't know who Jeremy is and what thequartering is, I'm going to put the link down below to his YouTube channel so you guys can check him out because he's got some really good videos. I think right now he's got 1.4 million subscribers, so he's doing pretty well. But they're talking about white discrimination and how in recent years that's really become a problem. And anyways, man, I really wanted to comment to this and watch this. And but hey, guys, if you would, please like and subscribe to my channel. Thanks.
And speaking of unfairness in this country, is that in America today, white men, especially if they're Christian men, they get it worse, but they're outwardly being falsely accused, being discriminated against, call all kind of names, racist and things like that. How did that happen, and why do white men put up with that?
I think that not all white men do, but I do think that there are some that do. And I think, at least from my perspective, when it started, was maybe 10, 12 years ago, it kind of became like, not just accepted, but encouraged to disparage white men.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's above a joke. You can make jokes about white guys. That's fine.
Yeah.
But that wasn't really the case. You couldn't make jokes at other people's expenses. You still can't. And I'm not sure exactly when it started, but I remember when it first affected me. I was a part of a card game community back in 2015 or 16. I started seeing some of this rhetoric come down the lines about first time I've ever heard of cis, straight male, this new words,
Yeah.
And people were saying that white men should basically shut up and let everyone else speak because a bunch of white people run companies and therefore all white people are bad. And I thought it was really weird when it was like, well, wait a minute. We apply this logic that like, just because somebody is black and they do something bad, that doesn't mean that all black people are bad. Why are we saying this about white people, in particular men and straight men?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's dead on about that. I mean, again, we can't have group guilt over something. You can't, you can't make people guilty because they're white or because they're black or because they're male or because they're female. I mean, you can't do that kind of stuff. I mean, you can, but it doesn't mean anything because, you can't blame people for something they didn't personally do. There's individual accountability, but I agree with them that a lot of white men won't defend themselves and say, you know what, no, I'm not racist. I don't believe that white people are superior to black people. Not at all. I don't, dislike black people. I don't, most white men, not all, like Jesse says, not all, but most are afraid of stating that because they're afraid of pushback, of being called racist because they're defending themselves against racism.
But it just kind of became this accepted thing, and it was really weird. And I think this is probably 2015, like around when Trump was running, it became really mainstream.
Right.
And I'm not exactly sure what drove it, but I think it's why Trump won. That was white men pushing back against this. When you had Hillary Clinton say, oh, well, half of his people are, remember the basket of deplorables, racist, whatever, bigots, whatever. I think people are like, wait a minute, no, I'm not. And you know what? Screw you. I'm going to go vote for Trump now. So I think it kind of, I hope that they learned some lesson there, but it hasn't really seemed to go away.
Yeah. I remember 32 years ago now when I first started out. And at that time, they were calling white people racist, and they were accusing white people of holding blacks back and that kind of stuff. And I said to white people then, y'all better speak up, because if you give in to these people, they're going to see you as cowards, and they're just going to make it worse for you. And the white folks, I used to write about it and everything, man. And white people didn't speak up then, because I know that black people are not suffering because of white people at all. They're suffering because of not having fathers and mothers in the home to lead them in the right way. And they've been lied to by the so-called civil rights movement and their leaders. So I would tell the white people, speak up. At least say, no, it's not true. And then whites didn't speak up for the most part. Not all.
Yeah. I think that it was weird because people were so afraid of being called racist that they were afraid to even defend themselves against the label, because they were thought, now here's, I've interacted with, when I live in Wisconsin in the Midwest, I went to a high school with, there's like 1,200 students in my graduating class, and 2 of them were black. And so when I started hearing about like white people oppressing black people, I'm like, I've never even seen a black person where I live. How am I oppressing them?
Right.
How am I don't really understand any of this stuff. Certainly I think at its core, individual responsibility is still a thing that is ignored. We saw this with, everybody, fighting the power by going to steal big screen TVs. I didn't really understand how that, really did anything. But the media was like, oh, well, this is because of, years of this or that. Well, no. These people are stealing stuff.
Right.
They're breaking the law. They should be arrested.
Yeah.
And you had corporations like Target just came out yesterday and said, oh, we lost $400 million last year due to organized theft. Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
Every time during that last summer, you saw people just going into the store and stealing all the, TVs and all this stuff. And the company would just virtue signal and say, oh, well, we understand. Well, maybe people should be arrested for due, if people had consequences, hopefully they would learn from them.
Right.
Not everyone does, but hopefully.
Yeah, that's another thing I think too. Like, we got to enforce the laws. We got to, if you steal something, if you do something wrong, you need to face the consequences of what you did wrong. As an individual, you can't blame people for the color of their skin, for crimes that everyone of that persuasion did. You can't do that. But if somebody goes in and steals a TV from a store, yeah, they ought to be arrested. As a matter of fact, man, I think probably sentences ought to be longer, harsher. Again, man, people need to get in trouble for what they individually do wrong. No matter what the color of their skin is, individually, what you do wrong, you need to pay the consequences for. And if you don't, you're not going to learn.
I don't understand why you think letting people be bad of all colors by not enforcing laws teaches them to follow the law.
Right.
I don't know how that.
Why are people afraid of words? When I was growing up, it was clear the adults would teach us, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Why are people afraid of words? Especially like one word control most white people, not all, and that word is racism. What is it about words that make people afraid?
I think people started to really get afraid. It was when those words were weaponized and people started losing their jobs.
Yeah. People
People started getting, having real world consequences for these things, even when they weren't accurate. I remember there was a story of like remember with the OK hand symbol? There was like an electrician that did that and got fired because, they called him a white supremacist or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that has died off a little bit, but I think people got really, really afraid because once you got that label, people on the internet would use it to destroy your life. And I've always said that you look at a lot of these, for example, like right-leaning figures, Gina Carano, for example, the actress, these people didn't want her off the internet. They wanted her dead.
Yeah.
You know, like it was not, and it was because of a few words she said. So I don't know when it escalated so much. I don't know why people.
But yeah, you know, I definitely agree that white people, I think for the most part, are afraid of that word. They're afraid of being called racist. And I definitely agree with Jesse on that. They're afraid of being called racist. They're afraid of being seen as racist. They're afraid of you know, having their lives destroyed because of that kind of stuff. And you know, I think the thing is, man, we've got to realize that it may be difficult to step up and say something, but you got to. You got to. People have got to step up and say, you know what, that's wrong. You know, that's wrong, and not worry about being called racist. You know, I mean, I think, you know, a couple of videos that I put up, you know, just commenting on things, you know, just commenting on Jesse's stuff and saying I agree to certain things or disagree or whatever. And normally I agree with the stuff, but, you know, I mean, I'm being called racist because I don't think that white people should have white guilt, you know, because I don't think that black people are oppressed. You know, because I disagree with the fact that black people don't have opportunity in this country. You know, I'm being called racist because of that. And it's like, okay, you know, I guess if you want to call me racist, I guess I am by your definition, but I'm not. And who cares what you say?
Got so sensitive. I think maybe it has something to do with kids growing up now and not having any real, like a lot of real problems. It's pretty easy to be a kid nowadays.
Yeah.
You know, they have iPhones, they have, you know, all this, you know, everything. No kids are working. We're around me. None of the kids are working. You know, when I was 14, I had my parents drive me to the city hall to get a work permit so I could go get a job so I could get money.
Yeah.
Not a single kid around, like my friends' kids, they don't work. They say, I work hard. I want my kid to work hard. I'm like, okay, well, don't complain when your kid's, you know, doesn't know the value of money, doesn't, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I think the parents are too damn soft, I think.
Absolutely, man. I heard a report today. I didn't see the report that there are thousands of young men that are not working. They don't want to work. They sit behind a computer all day and hide and do things, crazy things, and they just don't want to work. And yet the parents are taking care of them for the most part.
Yeah, that's a dangerous thing, I think, for parents. It's almost as bad as not being around at all because you're giving them a safety net to be unproductive. And when they need to be productive at some point, they're not going to know how. They're not going to know, you know, how to work and deal with the, you know, you saw these people from Twitter getting laid off over the last couple of days.
Yeah, they're tripping out.
Yeah, and they're right. They're writing 500-word essays about how, you know, it's like, are you kidding me? I've been fired. Everyone that I know has been fired plenty of times. It's not a big deal.
Right.
You get after it, you go get another job. But these people they don't even know how to handle it. And it's got to come from their parents like coddling them their whole lives.
Yeah, but I think, you know, parents, in a lot of ways, they don't want to let go of their kids. You know, they want to keep their adult kids, even though they're not kids. You know, they want to make them kids so they can, they're afraid of them leaving them. And, you know, so they want to kind of pacify them. They want to keep them in place so they don't run off and leave them and leave them by themselves and that kind of stuff. So I think, you know, that happens to quite a bit. You know, I've seen that over and over again in people's lives. But yeah, I definitely agree that if we want to teach our kids responsibility, we got to have them be responsible.
I totally agree. When I was growing up, I don't know a day when I wasn't either responsible, had some type of responsibility at home. And then when I got old enough to go out and work, I worked. And they prepared me to leave home at 18. You're a grown man now, you're out of here. And I used to ask my grandparents, they were like, okay, at 18, you're out of here. And I'm down in Alabama on a plantation, right? And I'm like, well, where am I going? They're like, I don't know. I don't care. You're just out of here. And so, and so when I turned 18, I was prepared to take care of myself. I was ready to leave home. And I left home at 18 and haven't looked back.
Yeah, I think I mean, that's where I was at too. I had an allowance. It was like $3 a week. I had to do a bunch of chores to get it.
Yeah.
The second I could get a job washing dishes, I did, because my parents worked, but you know, if I wanted something outside of getting fed and whatever, I had to work for it.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful that my parents were like that.
Me too.
A lot of people complain, but man, when I was 18, I was ready to go. I had a savings account. I had a decent job. I actually had vacation. Like I had a couple of vacation days stacked up at work. I had a car. It wasn't great, but it ran. It got
That's right.
You know, so, and then I didn't move out until I was 20 because I went to community college in the same town, but my parents made me pay rent for that, you know, and they made me pay for, so, you know, and that turned me into the man I am today. I have a work ethic, and it's because they didn't let me sit around and do nothing.
You son of a